Hi there, welcome to Terraland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Libra energy, and like usual, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Libra energy, the bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy Libra energy. We have free will, we have to make decisions within ourselves, and we have our dualistic nature. So, some people right now could be battling within themselves. Sometimes, well, I guess generally I'd look at it that if people kind of would like to move forward a little differently than they've been living their life, and the bottom row can kind of just represent our comfort zone, to step out of our comfort zone, face some of our fears, believe in ourselves, that can be hard. And we've all been there at different times in our life. And some people could be at that stage in their life where they're really kind of debating those things. And, of course, Libra energy represented by the scales of justice, we kind of go back and forth about what our truth is, what we think just and fair. But, we have our more high vibe nature, and we have people in our life who kind of align with us in that way. And then we might have our more worldly nature, and we got people in our life who kind of align with us in that nature. And, some people might not like it if we move forward a little differently. Maybe we had a certain way of living life and vices or habits or something that we kind of all viewed as just and fair, and then maybe we're not going to do those things anymore, and then some of the people that we're hanging out with, living our life that way, won't like it. For example, there's some people right now, they've already done the debate. Some of those people move forward a little differently. Some other people decided to keep living their life where they're at. We've all got to listen to our intuition and our truth. And I kind of view Libra as that aspect of ourself that, helps us feel balanced and stable within ourselves. Is there all things we might like to do, be more bold and brave and confident, but we're not there yet. And if we were to go try to do that, it would kind of destabilize us. So everybody's going to do what seems best for them. And they're too, just like any aspect within ourselves, emotionally or something, it can kind of depend on our emotional maturity level and our confidence level and how much we're manipulated by our more shadowy nature of fear and insecurity and pride and ego and immaturity and self-indulgence and codependency and our ego and all these other things that manipulate us. So anyway, let's go see what's going on in Libra energy. So it might be something more that people who are a Libra sun sign or have significant Libra placements might deal with. But we all tap into Libra energy at large, so it affects all of us. The reason for the bottom rose reading is the Five of Swords, which can talk about that we have mental conflict. So some of the people who still have, we can live our life at a certain way of living life, think the way we think, feel the way we feel, live our life the way we live it. And there might be some things about it that over time, like any stage of life, we kind of start to have mental conflict of continuing to repeat that same pattern, because we'll keep repeating certain patterns over and over because that's how we think, that's how we feel, that's our truth. But eventually things kind of get old, just like who wanted to stay an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old forever, right? And eventually it kind of starts to cause us this mental conflict. Well, then, are we willing to deal with that mental conflict and kind of see the truth of why we have this mental conflict? And we could really struggle within ourselves. The reason for the top rose reading is the Three of Cups, which is Cancer energy, which can be about what we love. There can be a lot of things about our life that we love, whether those are habits or vices. There could also be other things we would like to do that we think we would love and like and enjoy. But we have to make these decisions in our life. Libra, represented by the scales of justice, we have these conflicting things that we would kind of like to do. The fives also talk about change. We'd all like some of the things that we've invested in to work out the way we wanted, but if we're working together with other people, we can always be waiting for other people to change. And sometimes we need to see the truth that the Five of Swords also is Aquarius energy. I have a dream. You have a dream. You have your idea of the dream life. I have my idea of the dream life. I had my ideas of how I thought this was going to move forward and what it was going to look like and feel like. You had your ideas of what it was going to look like and feel like. I have the things that I love and I enjoy that I think is just and fair. You have the things that you love and you enjoy and what you think is just and fair. And sometimes it causes us so much mental conflict that it forces us to, for some people, they've learned the Three of Cups is Cancer energy about love of self and love of others, and that they offer love to it. They offer love to themselves. They offer love to the situation. From love, I want to deal with the truth of the situation. And the Five of Swords comes after the 2, the 3, and the 4 of Swords, which is Libra energy. If my dream is different than other people's dream, if my truth is different, if what I think is just and fair, my idea of the dream life, what I love, what they love, or they love someone else, whatever. And then the bottom row also can represent that some people in their free will, again, they have this dualistic nature, could have mental conflict with love. And shadowy Three of Cups can be where people could kind of use their emotions more manipulatively or kind of maybe a little more superficially because they don't really want to do love. Because if you do love, you got skin in the game and you get hurt. And the bottom row can represent our more worldly, egoic nature, which is our more defensive nature, to being hurt. So some people have more mental conflict about doing love, and the Three of Cups can talk about working together with people more from a foundation of love, being more, that's, I mean, if it's going to be a romantic relationship, it should be because of love for each other. And some people have a mental conflict with that. I want to be in a relationship. I enjoy relationships, but I don't really want to do love. I have mental conflict about that. And sometimes people are kind of mismatched in that way. And one person definitely is more oriented to work together with people, motivated and inspired by love. Want to work together with people from love, motivated and inspired by love, authentically. And other people, it could kind of seem more like they are living a little more from their mind than their heart. And then loving people could feel more manipulated in the relationship. Because again, high vibe energy is coming out from behind your ego nature, being independent of your more ego nature or your more immature nature or prideful nature, defensive nature, self-centered nature. The bottom row of shadow can be a lot of things. So, kind of got to keep it in perspective as we read it. We can know all sorts of different people that we've known in our life, and some people are on the far end of the spectrum, that they're very shadowy, very manipulative, very superficial, very shallow, unjust, unfair. The Five of Swords, in a really shadowy way, is people who want to win at all costs and they really don't care who gets hurt. And in shadowy Aquarius and Libra, could be that it's more about looking like a shining star in the world. Or I'm kind of full of myself and I think I am the star of the show and everything really should be more. Everybody else should put aside their pride and ego in the workplace or the friendship or the relationship, but not me. And then other people just got mental conflict. So keep it in perspective when we are talking about it, of with listening just to your own intuition about the different people you've known in your life and different stages of life you've gone through. To make it easy, let's try to go up to the top row first. So, if some people went through a life experience and throughout their life have, we grow and mature ourselves, right? We keep offering ourselves love to keep believing in our dreams. I go through these different stages of life. I learn lessons at those different stages of life. We come in contact with all these different people that we could like, that we could love, that we could be attracted to in our neighborhood, our family, workplaces, wherever, right? And it's all to help us work through our own mental conflict about getting more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. Because in our more worldly nature, there's a lot of things that we think, yeah, I think that's just and fair. I'm going to go do that, and I want to indulge in this, and I want to make my life about that. We got a lot of lessons to learn, and we do go indulge in those things, and we do go try to manifest certain things, and we are sure that is the right thing, and we're going to be happy. But we got growing up to do, right? So some of the things that we indulged in when we were younger, to a certain degree, we maybe not don't indulge in those things to that degree as we get older. Some people, right? Some people keep doing it, right? Teach our own. And some of those people, you know, we probably distance ourselves from them because we had some mental conflict about continuing to live our life a certain way, or how they conducted themselves and what we thought was just and fair. So, high vibe energy is kind of about listening to your intuition, realizing when something is going on that you're starting to have mental conflict, continuing to think that way, feel that way, act that way, live your life a certain way. So you offer love to it, because love is the answer. But it starts with me learning to love myself and to heal. Because again, the Five of Swords comes after the Four of Swords of Libra energy, which is about healing, reflecting on the truth, working through past pain and heartbreak, seeing where I need to grow up and mature myself, where other people, just seeing the truth. And then in Aquarius energy, it can be looking at life from a higher perspective, putting things in perspective. I have a dream. I don't want to repeat certain patterns and get stuck. That's also shadowy energy, is staying where things become dead and stagnant and you're not giving birth to anything new, maybe because of your fear of change and fear of stepping out of your comfort zone, or fear of taking action in your truth, speaking your truth, standing up for what you think is just and fair. And all of these life experiences could have been all these different life experiences to get us to look at life from a higher perspective, to get us to stand up for ourselves. But first we got to figure out what we think is just and fair before we can even kind of really stand up for it, right? and and then to learn to love yourself. That takes time, because we're used to, and the bottom row can represent that too, where we just have mental conflict even loving ourselves, and we kind of, the bottom row can represent kind of like more codependent energy, where I'm looking outside of myself to the world to validate my worth and value, to appreciate me, to love me, to be encouraging of me, versus us learning, because we're not children anymore, and to learn to play that role in our own life. Well, some people went through some experiences. They listened to their intuition. They probably did offer truth and love to the situation. Maybe had been doing that. But we can get to a point where we can work together with people go through many cycles of life, like age 15 to 18, 18 to 21, 21 to 25. But then we all have different dreams. We all change over time, and you're either kind of changing for the better, kind of growing up and maturing yourself and tempering your ego, or you can kind of get worse, right? And it's to see the truth of that, or see how some people don't want to change and they want to keep repeating a certain cycle, right? So some people have gone through it, some people could be going through it right now. Some people have been offering truth and love to a situation and accepting the truth. I can't change other people. I can't change a workplace. I can't change a neighborhood. The only person I can change is me, and I have my truth. And my truth can be different than other people's truth, but I'm going to offer myself love to live my truth. And high vibe energy would be from a place of balance, not out of pride or ego or fear or insecurity or vengeance or any of those things. I have a dream. I want to free myself from things that manipulate me within myself. I don't want to be around people who are trying to manipulate me. I want justice and fairness. And if I'm going to be in a romantic relationship, I want it to be because of love, not because I want to look like a shining star in the world, or because I want someone to love me, or because I got mental conflict. It has to be truthful and authentic and just and fair. So we start out in the top row with the Eight of Cups. And the Eight of Cups is going to the Nine of Cups, offering yourself that cup of love to be more independent, is what the nines can talk about, and preparing to kind of close out an old cycle. And the Eight of Cups walks away from the Seven of Cups, and the Seven of Cups it was something we had invested in and that we had hoped was going to work out the way we wanted, but there could be people or situations where either it seemed more superficial and shallow, wasn't what we thought it was. It was confusing. Again, people could have mental conflict with love. Well, I find that confusing because maybe that's not my truth, or seem to want to win at all costs, or want it to be more all about you, or it always has to be tipped in favor of you. Like they're the indulged person in the relationship. And you could think just some people in the Seven of Cups energy have illusions about what it means to be, how to conduct themselves in a friendship, a relationship, or a workplace. Just that you could think they got some lessons to learn. They have these ideas that, of course, they think are just and fair, might work for them, for other people, not so much. And so some people decide to become independent of a certain way of living life out of love for themselves. And then they're going to go through this process here from the Eight of Cups down to the Three of Cups is letting go of the Five of Cups, which can be, we could have been living our life. We could have gotten in situations with other people where maybe in a typical Five of Cups card, we don't have it on the table, but it's people kind of looking at the past and the Three Cups that have tipped over. We've got, again, we could repeat patterns. I think we are drawn and attracted to certain people because we kind of have these unresolved issues that we don't even realize how it affects us and how we view life and what we think is just and fair and how we view ourselves, what we believe is possible, things that we'll kind of put up with in relationships in a way because of these other relationships in our past, the Three of Cups that had spilled over in the past. And so then we can get in friendships and relationships, and that can be the common reason why we're at that stage of life where we both could be sad that other friendship or relationship or job didn't work out, so we go get in a different one. But we still hadn't seen how we could have been more driven and motivated to even get in those relationships, because either just because some other relationship didn't work out, we go get in another one. Well, that's not a good reason to get in a relationship, right? It's one thing to get in friendships with people. Oh, I'm sad, and you're friends, right? And then some of those friendships can evolve and we can hope for the best. And sometimes we can help each other get over some of the pain and heartbreak of that. But then by the time we kind of come out on the other side, we've kind of helped each other heal, possibly. And then it's kind of like we don't have that in common anymore. Because, so again, it's that kind of that idea where sometimes people can come into your life for a time, even though that time could be a long time, to help each other and be hopefully loving and encouraging people to each other and kind of treat each other in a more just and fair way than maybe some situation we'd went through previously, or we wouldn't keep staying in it, right? And it was an opportunity for everybody to heal. But then what if everybody does kind of heal from the past pain and heartbreak? And then it's kind of like, oh, well, I feel much better now. Ooh, yeah, I feel much better now too. And then, as you talk about how things are going to move forward or just kind of envisioning how things are going to move forward, you kind of realize that kind of how you like to live your life as you move forward could be different, or one person's still sad and they didn't work through some of the past pain and heartbreak or fears or insecurities. They didn't change. Whatever mental conflict and past pain and heartbreak or whatever, or self-limiting beliefs or things they look to be the answer to make them feel better, whatever that would be, they still have, they still look to all those things and still have that mental conflict and are still sad. Well, they can definitely be upset if during that same period of time that you're in friendship or relationship with someone that you healed and now you want to move forward in life differently. You have learned to love yourself. You offered love to those things. You grew and healed or matured yourself in some way. You started to look at life differently, a little higher perspective. Um, Ready to move forward, being more independent of a certain phase of life. And they're like, where are you going? We're supposed to keep doing this. I'm still having a fine time here. And you're kind of like, I could have enjoyed that too, but I might like to do things a little differently and kind of go to that next phase of life where I kind of let some of these ways of thinking or living life go. Probably offer truth and love to those people so long as it seems like, hoping you'll both become independent of some things or a group of people. And some people will move forward with you when you do that, some people won't. And while you're doing that in your life, other people in the world are doing that too. It's just a phase of life. I've had people offer truth and love, other people shadowy energy, and we end the story of the bottom row with the magician, where people haven't, maybe don't want to offer love to themselves or to work through, to see the truth of something that could stop them from becoming independent of things in the magician card that manipulate them. And again, we can't make other people see the truth of what manipulates them, but we can see what manipulates them. And again, it could be more about themselves or their fear or their codependency on other people or things that they look to, if it's money or status or image or vices that they have. And they might not be ready to want to deal with the truth of those things. So sometimes, they could try to manipulate people to try to get them to keep staying in the relationship, cause you a lot of mental conflict by even maybe trying to make you feel imbalanced or not listen to your intuition or not love yourself or not believe in yourself or not believe in your dreams because they don't want to do life different. So During this process, though, people work through that Five of Cups. I can either keep repeating a pattern, living my life, feeling a certain way, thinking a certain way, being in certain types of jobs, friendships, or relationships, and I can keep staying sad. That's kind of what the Five of Cups talks about. Or I can keep offering love to myself to keep moving forward. And the 8, the 9, and the 10 of Cups is Pisces energy, about kind of letting your more hopeful, believing, loving nature and hope and faith and belief in yourself and in your dreams be kind of what more dictates the decisions you make, and standing up for your truth and what you think is just and fair. So some people completed this cycle. They changed, they saw the truth. No more illusions, no more being in denial of the truth. They healed from something, or they saw through some way of thinking that, it's just like that light bulb moment when, if you kind of realize so much of your life is about what you think. And Libra is air sign energy of the mind, represented by the swords. We have all these different things in our head that we've kind of accumulated throughout our life, things we've thought, things other people have said us, all these things that we think that affect how we view ourselves and how we view the world and what we believe is possible. And sometimes people question, why do I think that? Is this true? It kind of makes me think. There's a lady, you could search her on YouTube, but her name is Byron, Byron, Katie. And she ended up writing a book, and now she goes around the country, if she's still alive. She was older at the time I ever heard of her. But she wrote this book, and it was something about, because she went through a really depressed, angry phase in her life when she was married and had like 4 kids or something, and didn't even know why. It wasn't, you know. And so she ended up writing this book anyway, and it was kind of like, it was like these 4 questions. How do you feel when you think those thoughts that you think? How would you feel like if you didn't think those thoughts? What if you decided maybe those thoughts aren't true? Because, we have all these different thoughts that pass through our head every day. And some of them we're like, oh, how dumb. And oh, that's ridiculous. And that's what some people do. They just bat off the ones, right? That is like, no, I'm not going to embrace that. Other ones, we like grab that thought like a baby, and we wrap it up and we feed it and we burp it and we grow it into a monster. And it's like, why do I think that way? Why do I feel that way? Why do I believe that maybe about myself or what I'm capable of or whatever, right? Why do I have so much fear? Why do I coddle and burp that one? How about I coddle and burp the one that tells me to have a little more hope and faith and belief in myself? But another thing that her thing was like to ask yourself, is that thought that you have true? And of course, generally, because we think we're right, of course it's right. I wouldn't think it if it wasn't right. If it wasn't true. So then the second question was, is it really true? To really question some of these things that we think about of ourselves or whatever, or what we think is just and fair. And then it maybe was like, how do you feel when you think that thought? How would you feel if you didn't think that thought? And kind of this whole idea of how different would your life be? Some people are very defensive and have a hard time believing anybody could love them because they reject their own high vibe loving nature. Also, with the 8 of Cups, moving away from the 7 of Cups, the 5, 6, and 7 of Cups of Scorpio energy, people can choose in their Scorpio nature, which is also emotional water sign like Cancer. They could decide, I don't want to do more deep, meaningful relationships. And Scorpio is about exploring the mysteries of life emotionally. But you can choose to harness a more worldly, shadowy Scorpio nature within yourself. I don't want to get to know me. I find that confusing. And it causes me mental conflict because the Seven of Cups can talk about it is confusing. We're emotionally complex human beings. But are you willing to get to know yourself emotionally? When you understand yourself emotionally, why have I done the things that I've done in life? Why did I act this way? Why did I do this? Why did I do that? We can have more compassion for understanding why other people are in that state of where they're at, and accept that we have our truth and we have our dream and we have our mix of what would make us happy in our life. Everybody else has got their mix, and kind of, but deal with the truth. If people are being immature, hurtful, unkind, unjust, unfair, quit trying to change people. Accept the truth. If they were a more just, fair, stable, balanced, loving, nurturing, mature person, they would be, and they're not. And we've all learned lessons in life, and we didn't learn those lessons overnight. That could take years or decades to learn some of those lessons, and some people have a lot of lessons to learn. So, the high vibe people offered themselves a cup of love to work through their regrets of the past, because that's what they could have seen, these unresolved issues, or not having learned to love themselves, living more from their mind than their heart, being caught up more in these things of the world or themselves or whatever. Just, it could even be two people who are more codependent, which is like, I want someone to love me. You should love me. No, I want someone to love me. You should love me. And we really haven't learned to love ourselves, to maybe really more, and matured ourselves to really be able to love other people, because codependent energy, I'm kind of going out looking for people to love me. And it is supposed to be equal give and take. So then we have the Four Swords, which is that healing. This is not my truth. I could keep moving forward with this, living my life this way or whatever, and keep having this mental conflict. Or I can accept the truth. There's some things about this that if at one time they were aligned with my truth, they're not anymore. Life is about going on these journeys to help me get more clear about what my truth is and my truth isn't. I got clear about my truth of what wasn't aligned with my truth. And I'm letting go and emotionally distancing myself from some ways of thinking, feeling, believing, investing myself in that aren't aligned with my truth. And I'm going to heal. And I'm going to reflect on the truth, because I don't want to repeat that pattern, whatever it could be. It was just like, I don't want to, if I'm 25, I don't want to go back to acting like an 18-year-old. I don't want to regress, right? And there too, maybe we were in some relationships again. People are either kind of rolling the ball up the slight incline of life to kind of keep focused on the dream and putting in the work and effort. And then some people could be like, I don't think I got to keep doing that. I just don't think life works that way. I mean, we do have like growth periods kind of where it is time to kind of put in the work and effort, and then we kind of like set up camp, you know, just like we were age 18 to 21. But then there comes a time where it's like, this is starting to cause some mental conflict. I think we've stayed here too long in our way. You know, it's wearing away at our foundation. It's time to start moving forward again, right? And some people, if they don't work through those issues, I think it kind of wears away at their foundation of self. Whatever it is that manipulates them, it's more compelling to them than to work through it, love themselves enough to like face their fears. So then the fears or the addictions or the codependency or the ego or the whatever becomes more and more. You know, it's like this dualistic nature, our shadow nature represented by the devil, high vibe energy represented by God, if we think, oh, I don't have to do that, well, the devil's prowling around like a lion, waiting to see who it can devour, just waiting, and our own shadow nature is just waiting for us to quit loving and believing in ourselves, because our shadow nature would like to be in the driver's seat of our life and kick our more loving nature in the back seat and say, we're going for a ride, baby. And our shadow nature doesn't care if we end up in the gutter. Our shadow nature will be like, damn, that was amazing. You know? Because shadowy energy is like experiencing all the more shadowy sides of life. And it wants to do that. Our more high vibe nature is more motivated to experience some more high vibrational things. And it's kind of who's going to win the battle within us. And some people, they're more shadowy, defensive, immature, egoic nature kind of won the battle. And it's to see the truth. Until they win that battle within themselves and learn to love themselves and distance themselves from some of those things that manipulate them, they're the only one who can do that. We can be a good example in the world. We can treat people in a just and fair and loving and encouraging way. But am I going to get in a more involved relationship with you? No, I'm going to keep my distance because I've already been in some mismatched relationships and I don't want to do that anymore. It has to be balanced. And if there's things that I see that kind of manipulate you, and those things don't manipulate me in that way, it's going to be a problem sooner or later. And if you have a problem with love, and I want to do love as the foundation, and you want to live more from your mind than your heart, or make it more about you or the world, yeah, we're going to have a problem. In the Five of Cups, I'm going to feel like I'm missing an opportunity to be in a more deep, meaningful, loving relationship because you're not willing to do that. So the high vibe people take time to heal and probably think about how they would like to move forward. In the Chariot, which is also Cancer energy, and the Chariot can talk about kind of getting in the driver's seat of your own life, which also kind of talks about balance, just like the Four of Swords of Libra energy talks about balance. I need to first get balance within myself, offset my own fears, insecurities, self-limiting beliefs, so I am maintaining balance within myself, not indulging poor behavior in myself or others, because that just sets me up for a more imbalanced relationship. So the first thing is to love myself, to heal, and to take action moving forward from a place of love and making those decisions in my life. And then the Chariot can talk about moving forward victoriously, because when things are balanced, it's just like if you're to look at the Chariot like a vehicle, if some of the tires are flat, it's not going to go as well as if all four of the tires were aired up properly. And it's kind of getting balanced within ourselves, kind of in that regard, because the Emperor gets in the driver's seat of the Chariot, us making good decisions in our own life, and realizing that in tarot we have the four suits of the deck, so kind of representing the four wheels, and Aries energy is represented by the Four of Wands, about kind of being inspired within ourselves. And I kind of view the Four of Wands and all four tires and stuff like that is firing on all four cylinders, but realizing and having learned these lessons that all four aspects are important to us, equally important. And in tarot, we have the heart, the mind, the 3D world, and our creative, passionate nature, where at different times in our life, we had to go learn these lessons. And we could have thought, I don't really need that one so much. I don't really got to work and invest in that. These ones are the important one, or this one is the most important one. Like, oh my God, but I love them. And then our heart runs our life. And the other three aspects of our life kind of go in the toilet, because we have to go learn that lesson about letting our heart run our life. Some people let their mind run their life, either their fears or their insecurities or their defensiveness. self-protective nature, and other aspects of their life go in the toilet, and other people who make their life all about the world and the ego and the image could have some other aspects in their life go in the toilet. And it's like having learned these lessons that I want some of these things of the world, stability, security. I want love. I want just, my thoughts, my intellect, my creative nature, my inspired, passionate nature. I want a more balanced life. And that's what high vibe energy is. I acknowledge I have my shadow nature. I do want these things of the world, but it has to be balanced. I'm not willing to sacrifice truth and love and justice and fairness. And if I want those things and to be in relationship with people who are like that, I need to be that type of person. I need to heal. I need to love myself. I need to get balance. I need, in the Six of Wands, to have victory over my more worldly egoic nature and be more inspired by my hopeful, believing, loving nature. That's how I'm going to have. And the Six of Wands in Leo energy also talks about victory. And it talks about, what ultimately motivates and inspires us. Am I going to live more from my mind and my heart? Am I going to make it more about the world? Or am I going to be inspired that I have more to work with? I have my creative, inspired, intuitive, loving nature. And all those things were given to me as gifts to work with. And I've been given all these gifts, my mind, my emotional nature, my creative passion nature. I need to learn how to work with all of them and kind of grow and mature all of them equally because they're equally important. And that's the people who are going to move forward really kind of more victoriously and successfully than some people who could think, well, I am willing to sacrifice my more emotional nature because I don't think that's that important. I'll just kind of use my emotions kind of manipulatively as I need them. And that's like abusing a gift they were given. Or if you were to look at your heart, your mind, all those things about you, it's kind of like you have your shadowy inner child nature of all of those, and you have your more hopeful, believing inner child nature of those. And you can either align with your more immature ones or your more hopeful, believing ones, and try to use the gifts you were given to kind of try to cheat the justice system. I'll use my charm, my words, my intellect, my education, my status, my clout, my money, my whatever. I'll use all of those things as I need to. I think that's just and fair, but I'm going to use them all more manipulatively instead of using them to work together with people. High vibe Leo, being more authentic, being more mature, being more just and fair, being more balanced, being more motivated and inspired by love, being independent of my more shadow nature. And for some people, that's just not how they think. They're like, what? They could think that's ridiculous. This is a dog eat dog world. Hardly anybody thinks like that. But actually, probably 50% of the people at any given time are tipped more in favor of letting their more, and who are the people? I mean, people can be smart and bright, but they had to listen to their intuition. They had to believe in themselves in the face of other people saying, no, 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 we can't do that. That's not possible. I mean, we went from being cave people once upon a time to having airplanes and cell phones and heart surgery. How many of those people were told no, no, no? And other people didn't like it because that was different and you should do things just the way we've been doing it. You know, it's the people, that's high vibe energy. God at the big picture wanting to give birth to new things. But God can only give birth to new things if there's human beings who are willing to listen to their intuition, love Him, like believe in themselves, and invest in their own unique talent, skills, and interest out of love, and assume that, God's plans are probably bigger than our wildest dreams. But we as human beings can think, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. No, what would people say? And I can't do that. And I can't live my more authentic life. I need to conform to the world. And I'm sure that's the best decision. And can they look very successful and look like a shining star in the world? Yeah, but high vibe energy is again about being free. Shadowy energy, represented by the devil, is kind of being manipulated by all these things to. So high vibe people have jobs, they have friends, they do whatever. It's just listening to their intuition, being more independent, less manipulated, listening to the little breadcrumbs of the different thoughts and ideas that kind of come to your head when you're of how to move forward instead of making decisions more out of fear or insecurity or this makes logical practical sense, even if your intuition is telling you no, you should walk away from that. No, this makes logical practical sense, I should do this. Like, you don't even like that job. Yeah, but it pays a lot of money and I'd look like I'm a shining star. It's like, oh my god, it's going to be miserable. But kind of things like that. So let's go look at the bottom row. We have the Knight of Pentacles, the Nine of Swords, or Knight, this is the Knight, the Nine of Swords, the Two of Cups, the Nine of Pentacles, and the Magician. So the Nine of Swords is Gemini energy of our dualistic nature. Everybody had the opportunity in their life to invest in their more high vibrational, hopeful, believing, loving nature. But we've also been in relationships with people, and Gemini can talk about love, and Gemini is also in the Magician card. We have people we're drawn and attracted to, we have our friends, we have our family that we grew up with, and we love them. By the time we come along in life, some of those people either are people that are still at where they're at in life and have their issues and are manipulated by the things they're manipulated by and have their truth and things that they think are just and fair. And that can be difficult because some of those people, when we come along in life, again, in our family, in our community, in our city, in our state, in our country, we're dealing with all these different people and it can be confusing. Our family or our friend group could live life a certain way, view life a certain way, say this is just and fair, this is right and wrong. Other people could align maybe with our more hopeful, believing, loving nature. And if we have people in our life who are more aligned with a more worldly perspective of life, maybe not so much inspired to be more independent in the world, a little bit more about conforming to the world. It's kind of like following the herd, maybe don't like to live more from their mind than their heart. That in a way can kind of be our comfort zone. If we're used to and have grown up in situations in our life where other people have mental conflict with love, we're kind of used to being in relationships with people working with. You could look at the Magician as trying to work with other people. We're used to working with other people who have mental conflict with love, and that can kind of be our comfort zone. And we'll maybe keep getting in relationships with people who are like that because we all like to stay in our comfort zone. If you're used to working out with people who, say, are very defensive, well, then you go get in relationships with people who seem more open and loving. It's like, like you're always just waiting. Oh, I'm sure you're going to become defensive, because that's what you're used to. If you're used to being in relationships with people who can be very manipulative, you go get in relationships with other people and they're not being more manipulative and calculating, which is what the Nine of Swords and the Five of Swords can be, where it just seems like everybody's calculating and everybody's trying to manipulate. It was like, and then you go get in relationships with people who aren't like that. It's kind of like hard to believe. Oh, I'm sure you got some ulterior motive, and I'm sure something's going on, and I'm sure any moment I'm gonna see it. You know? But then again, even if people go get in relationships with people who aren't like that, again, it's like, I'm not used to that. That is different. I'm kind of used to working with people like this. And the same thing, like, I'm used to living with someone who's an alcoholic. I'm used to living with someone who flies off the handle. I'm used to living with somebody who's bossy and controlling. I'm used to living with someone who's more about themselves. And there can be some people where, in order to move forward differently, it could take a lot of work. And from the Nine of Swords down to the Five of Swords is the Four of Swords. For one, I'd have to be willing to see the truth instead of kind of the magician can kind of be like the Seven of Cups, where, because the Seven of Cups can be, it's emotionally confusing, and we could have dealt with people that were kind of manipulative and emotionally confusing. And we can have people in our life that we love, and maybe if they're still living their life a certain way, if we were to become independent, maybe they would become upset. You might have known some people, whether it's their friend group, their original family group, or maybe some of those people are in relationships with people or married, and those people don't want them to be more independent. Because again, it can change the dynamic of the relationship. And what if other people kind of freed themselves of things that manipulate them, that still manipulate the other people, or the other people do like to manipulate? Well, they can really be mad that someone else is going and living their life and it looks like they're moving forward in a just and fair and balanced and loving and victorious way. Well, it might make some of those people wonder why they live their life the way they live it. And then they might, shadowy energy can be that you're kind of in your ego about it. And you're maybe kind of jealous and a little envious. And if you can't get out of what you manifested, or some of these other people manifested, they can try to stop people in their life from moving forward. I don't want you to have the fucking dream. I'm going to try to control you or manipulate you or get you up in your head. You shouldn't trust those people. I don't think they are who they say they are. And that can be where people have these different people in their life who they could view as loving, and there can be love there, but maybe some other people, and we could have a really hard time seeing about some people in our life. Oh no, they want the best for me. Oh no, they want me to be happy. It's like, do they? Do they encourage you to love and believe in yourself? Do they encourage you to listen to your intuition? And do they try to help you look at life from a higher perspective and keep things in perspective? Or do they seem to have a lot of worry about you doing that and try to get you up in your head? Or, a person's own shadow nature could tell them, no, 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 we get hurt doing that. We got to invest living more from our mind than our heart. That's our truth. And we're going to align with our more worldly nature, and we're just going to go indulge ourselves in the world and manipulate people. That's the safe bet. And I view Libra energy in the tarot deck as the King of Swords, and I view the King of Swords can be a person's self-protective, defensive nature. And there's some people who I'm not going to do love. If I get to where I feel like I'm doing it, it gets me so up in my head, and I get so fearful, and I might get so afraid because you might seem, here we have the Two of Cups, which is Cancer energy, the Nine of Cups, which can be where people seem more independent, less manipulated than some of these other people. Maybe kind of believe in themselves, can be a high vibe magician, know how to work with their resources. They are more connected maybe with their emotions and their intuition and their creative, inspired nature. And kind of like, I'm afraid you're going to be like a shining star. And I'm afraid one day you will become independent of me and you will want to manifest with other people. So then that can be their own lack mentality of believing in themselves. You know, if people are in a relationship with them, they're in a relationship with them because they want to be, probably. You know, but you'd have to be willing to get out of your ego to communicate those things with people. And some people have a lot of mental conflict about communicating their truth to people. So then it just kind of gets them all up in their head. And then because of their fear, or they're afraid you're going to leave, or afraid you, I don't know, or just distrustful of people. Some people are just very distrustful of people. And you know, it's kind of like then they kind of have a lack mentality that I'm sure people are going to leave me, and I'm sure people, you know, and some people who um, kind of lack a little more hope and faith and belief in themselves and in others and in love, they could be people who kind of try to create an illusion about who they are, how stable, grounded, loving, balanced that they feel within themselves. And so they're kind of creating an illusion and not telling the truth. So then they can definitely think other people are doing that, but some other people maybe aren't. But, and then they could try to manipulate people to control them. And it could just be a mess. But there, right now, there is some shadowy people in the world. If some people were shadowy and they are maybe kind of full of themselves, and if they could have invested in trying to look like a shining star in some way in the world, and then kind of in their ego nature think people should want to be in a relationship with them, male or female, because they have these certain status or image or social clout or attractiveness or intelligence or whatever they think they got going. Well, if someone wants more, you know, and could feel like these people maybe, you know, Libra energy, I view it represented by the King of Swords, can be a little emotionally detached, you know, and that's where people could feel like, I feel like I'm missing an opportunity to be in a more loving relationship because I don't think you really want to do love. And if those people want to move forward in a way that's different, change, different, than them, you know, well, that can really get them in their ego. Like, you didn't value them or they weren't like good enough. But, you know, it should be more just seeing the truth. If you know you're someone who doesn't really like connecting with your emotions, quit beating yourself up. Accept that other people do want, they harness their Scorpio energy different. They're a little more independent of their defensive nature. Get out of taking it personally, or, you know, it'd be like saying all the people in the world who like blueberry pie are awful people because they don't want to have strawberry pie. And you think strawberry pie is the epitome. You know, quit taking it personally. See the truth. Everybody's different. If people treated you in a just and fair and loving way and they weren't hurtful and unkind, they probably had no intention of wanting to hurt you. But if your dream is different, how you want to move forward is different, what you do want to invest your time, energy, and effort, and how you want to move forward is different than what they want to invest their time, energy, and effort into, and how they want to move forward, get out of your ego and quit taking it so personally. And same way for the other people. We can have mental conflict all our life that other people think and feel. And I mean, could you feel like some of the people you could feel are, there could be people in the world who are more grown, mature, balanced, stable, whatever, than you. And yeah, some of those relationships won't work out. Well, don't get in, you know, you are you. You're on your own journey. Other people maybe had life experiences, whereas it is kind of like, oh, wow, yeah, your life is kind of like in season 3. I'm at the beginning of season 2 of this journey of life. We're in different places at different times, you know? It's kind of to try to find the people who are kind of more on the same page as you, and you could get to season 3 of life just like some other people. Of course, by that time, those people might be at season 4 or season 5 of life. And still, there's always going to be people that are more, got it more going on than we got it. And there's always going to be people in the world who got it less going on. But it's to be happy with our truth. But I think for the people who are more caught up in their ego, it's harder for them to wrap their brain around it. High vibe people have learned to offer love to it. It is what it is. We all can have people that do and don't want to be in friendship or relationship. Sometimes we do and don't want to be in relationship with those people, and some of those people do and don't with us. And we get out of our ego about it. They have their truth, I have my truth, and sometimes those are different. And what we want to manifest is different. So the truth will set me free to become independent of it. I don't want to stay in negative energy. I don't want to be up in my head about it. I don't want to stay in mental conflict about it. I'm going to accept the truth, and I'm going to move forward being inspired to live my truth. I have my unique talent, skills, interests, and resources that I can use to manifest my dream and what I enjoy, and other people are going to do what they're doing. And the people in your life who you know are kind of more about the most important thing is maybe them or the ego or the image of it or what they indulge in. You already knew you didn't like it. So get over it. Let them do that with someone else. And if someone else is like, hey, that's just my kind of thing, well, perfect. They have found the right person for them to hang out with to do and make their life about that. Odds are they won't be changing. The worse they are, the more they like to live from their mind, the more defensive they are, the more manipulative they are, the more self-indulgent, the more prideful, the more immature, odds are they're going to keep thinking that way, living their life that way. But as you're living your truth, there's other people that could be good examples for you. As you invest in your truth and quit investing your time, energy, and effort with people where you've seen you do not have the same truth, it opens up the opportunity as you move forward to meet other people who are on the same page as you. And some of you have been doing that. You took that time to heal. You loved yourself. You got in the driver's seat of your life. You were inspired by love to take action out of love, to keep maintaining balance, not take action more out of these shadowy reasons. And you're moving forward in a very, whatever way in your life, it looks very victorious and successful, confident, inspired, shining your light in the world, living your truth. And for some people who, I don't know, even some of the people who thought, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to do love. Maybe it'd be great to be single, because the Nine of Pentacles can be single. And then, I don't have to maintain balance. I don't have to work cooperatively with other people from love. I can just do whatever the hell I want. Sadly, though, some of those people, because of their human nature and part of the maybe looking like they're living the dream isn't to be single, because part of their idea of the dream life can try to create this illusion like, people want to be in a relationship with me, look, people love me. And so I think they end up kind of getting in relationships for these other purposes, which is kind of more about them and indulging themselves in the status or the ego or the image of it. And while they're getting in relationships for those reasons, kind of this win at all costs attitude to have a certain status or image, instead of healing, instead of working through their fears or insecurities, how the world manipulates them, everything keeps staying the same. Nothing changes. And other people's lives really changed. And then it's like, well, how'd your life really change? how does it seem? And you didn't maybe do all these things, and you're not doing all those things. And it's like, well, because I healed and I didn't take action more out of fear, and that I didn't want to be single, and that I wanted to have a certain status or image, and I wasn't manipulated more by my shadow nature, and I took action out of truth and love. And I think when you take action out of truth and love, you're kind of in the flow of high vibe energy, and you look very successful and victorious whether you're in relationships or not in relationships. You seem happy and balanced within yourself. It's like an energetic thing about you, and inspired, not conflicted. And they go do all these things thinking those things, because they're looking outside of themselves for things to be the answer to make them happy, because they haven't learned that love is the answer within themselves. And so they look to all these things, loving like the world, still being manipulated by the world. And it's kind of like aligning with the devil. And the devil lies. And the devil says, make your life all about these things. You don't have to grow up. You don't got to temper your ego. You don't got to be more just and fair. You can go indulge all these things and live the dream, man. And then they end up here again, you know? Mental conflict. Like, I worked with all these things, and I did all these things that I thought was going to make, because I think we all want to feel victorious, successful, feel balanced within ourselves, be happy, but they're still not kind of at peace within themselves. It's still this competitive energy, this conflicted energy, this ego energy, and it keeps manipulating them. And they probably don't understand how other people, they could try to do what other people are doing, but the other people is intention of why they do what they do is different than why these people do what they do. So let's go see what's coming up. The shadowy people, more worldly shadowy people there's always going to be people that can want to be in friendship and relationship with people. The high vibe people are willing to get to know people, but if they realize that this doesn't seem to be aligned with my truth, if I was more fearful, if I didn't want to be didn't like being single, maybe being in a relationship helps me get out of my head and makes me feel better. It makes me feel more balanced within myself. Well, I don't want to get in a relationship and kind of use someone for those reasons. But other people could keep doing that. And then they get themselves in these relationships and have kind of created this illusion that it's a more high vibrational relationship when it's not. And then they could have mental conflict of telling those people that come in their life that, in a way they'd want to move away from it. Or, I don't know, do we want to get ourselves tangled up in things that we really shouldn't get tangled up in? And other people are like, I am willing to get to know people, but if between the Nine of Swords and the Four of Swords is the Five of Swords, that our dreams are different, our truth is different, kind of maybe our emotional maturity levels are different, what we think is just and fair is different. I love myself enough and know my worth and value and feel stable and grounded within myself enough. I'm not going to get in a relationship with someone and move forward with someone more out of ego to create some illusion about my life. It might be easier for people who live more from their mind than their heart because they don't really get themselves emotionally invested in people anyway. But for the people who do get themselves emotionally invested in people, I don't want to get myself emotionally invested and tangled up in something that is going to be really hard for me to get out of because I did get myself emotionally invested. So I'm willing to get to know people. I'm willing to move forward with people. And then there will come a time, if I think we're on the same page and we're going to try to work together to bring a dream into reality from love, and if that's not where it seems it's at, then I'm going to keep moving on. What's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Libra energy that they might not see coming? And as high vibe people are moving forward, they're going to meet people, other people are going to meet them. And the more high vibrational people will treat you in a more just and fair and balanced way, and you'll treat them that way. And you'll get to know each other to see if you're on the same page or not. And the people in your life who you currently get along with like that, you're going to keep moving forward with them. And it's just to see who else wants to be in that energy together with you. In your family, in your neighborhood, in your workplace. Oops. The Lover's card and the Nine of Pentacles, and the reason is because of the Four of Cups and the Queen of Swords. So, the Four of Cups is like giving yourself that cup of love, and then the Queen of Swords is Aquarius energy. Because you could have felt like people, the Queen of Swords can be people who are defensive. You felt like you were offering love to people who are defensive to love. And you felt unloved. And you kind of felt betrayed. So you decided to offer love to yourself and the situation. You offered truth and love to the people you were wanting to be in friendship or relationship with. And if that was their truth, those people, you have loving relationships with people who are in high vibe Virgo energy, invested in their free will in being more independent of harnessing that energy in a shadowy way. They're insightful, mature, stable, grounded, loving people. And going through this process helped you love yourself, to know your worth and value, and stand up for yourself and defend your truth. And with some of the people in your life, you could have harnessed your Virgo energy differently, because this is the Nine of Pentacles, this is the Knight, and that's Virgo energy. And people in a more worldly, shadowy Virgo nature within themselves could be more, their long-term goal is more of this worldly perspective. High vibe Virgo is, I do this inner work within myself to work through my fears and my insecurities and my self-limiting beliefs, because I don't like them manipulating me. And then I move forward in a more emotionally balanced, loving way, staying independent of my more shadowy nature, continuing to grow and mature myself. So out of love for yourself, you have a dream. And then as you're moving forward, what you don't see coming, is as you go through this process, you'll feel more independent. And then there'll be other people, other people you can offer truth and love to you that appreciate that you are more independent of your shadow nature, where some other people in your life didn't like it because they wanted you to be in your more worldly, shadowy nature, because they are too. And they wanted to keep doing this, and you wanted to do this, and they're like, no, that's not my truth. It's like, okay, then you go do your truth, and I'm going to do mine. And there will be probably some people who come in your life who are happy you became independent of an old phase of life just like they did, who you're offering them that cup of love to believe in themselves and believe in their dreams and know their worth and value, being loving and encouraging and supportive and authentic with them, and they are with you also. What's coming up for some people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Libra energy that they might not see coming? The Two of Cups. Why? Because of the Three of Pentacles. Well, the Two of Cups, like the Three of Cups, is Cancer energy. And then the Three of Pentacles is Capricorn energy, which the people in their life that are more operating from a foundation of love and have learned to love their more worldly nature, those people in their life change out of love for themselves. Because I love myself and I have this dream, I want to keep growing and healing and maturing myself. And that could really bother them because they don't do that. They have a way of living life or viewing life or things that manipulate them or people in their life. And they're not willing to become independent of those things or maybe to love themselves. So they keep looking for other people or things outside of them to be the answer to make them feel better. But they keep looking, they love the world or love being in relationships and look to being in a relationship to be the answer. And for some, I just want to be in a relationship, so I kind of have someone to indulge in my worldly nature. They could certainly like being in relationships, but it could be, again, but I have mental conflict about love. And it always ends up kind of being a problem in a relationship. Or I want to be in a relationship, it's good for my ego and my image. Oh, but by the way, um, the dream will never really come into reality because I'm more aligned with my self protected defensive nature and having to be more about me, or I'm more in love with the world and these things of the world. And that's why I get in the relationship, and that's what's most important to me. And more high vibrational people will leave their life, and the people who will stay might be people who are like them. And then they might have mental conflict staying in it. Because I think no matter who we are, it's kind of like we want people to love us. But when they had people in their life who were willing to work together with them, they weren't willing to change. They weren't willing to work through their fears and insecurities to become independent of investing and loving, living more from their mind than their heart. Well, so the people who are probably going to ultimately end up staying in a relationship with them are probably maybe other people who are like that, or just don't want to be single and want to be in a relationship. Other people, it'd be good for their ego or their image, um, want to create an illusion, want to try to manipulate someone else. It's all these ulterior purposes other than truth and love. Well, they might be upset. Well, I wanted someone who wasn't manipulating me, and I wanted to be with someone who didn't live more for their mind than their heart. It's like they don't want to be in a relationship with someone like themselves, but yet that's who they are, and they think other people should want to keep staying in a relationship with them. It's like, but whatever these things are, you don't like it. But even though they could get in a relationship with someone where they don't like that, it's really a more just and fair relationship. And they might not like that because it's not someone kind of indulging them in an over loving way of indulging them in poor behavior, or the other person also is manipulative or whatever. I just think because if it looks good by worldly standards in a way, and maybe they think they're in a relationship with someone who they don't think will ever be more inspired to love themselves and be more independent, if they're more about staying in a relationship more for these worldly reasons, and they're in a relationship with someone who's willing to stay in it more for these worldly reasons, they could think, well, that's my kind of person. That's just and fair. It's just that, again, it's maybe more for those worldly reasons. And they kind of maybe wish that the people they were in a relationship would maybe be more loving. But, again, it's this problem. When they get in a relationship with more high vibe people, the high vibe people are willing to change. I am willing to see where I need to heal and grow and mature myself. And then they could have a problem with it. Well, then the more high vibe people leave, they get in relationships with other people who aren't kind of challenging them to heal and grow and mature themselves. Well, then those people also, in turn, don't want people to want them to change. If we're going to be in a relationship, it's working cooperatively together, seeing where all of us could kind of benefit from working through some of our issues to move forward in a more just and fair and balanced way. And some people are like, well, no, you should change. But, and then they get in a relationship with people who also like, well, why should I have to change? I think you should change, you know? And, but even though there could be conflict and fighting, and I think the people who live more from their mind than their heart and do create an illusion, I think they're always stressed out in a relationship because they're creating an illusion about who they are, and they probably really are egoically invested to try to look like they have what other people have, or like they're more authentic or stable or balanced. And boy, if they start to feel like someone is starting to kind of see through the illusion, yeah, then that's when they can get triggered in their much more shadowy nature. I can't let that person tell people that I'm not who I say I am, and that I'm more immature or more full of myself or more manipulative or more codependent. And so then it'll be doing all this calculating to figure out how they're going to come out the winner. And again, all this is going on in their head when they're trying to have a relationship with someone. How differently do you interact in a relationship when that's not your state of mind, and you're maintaining balance and being inspired to listen to your intuition and being loving and encouraging to the people you're in a relationship? So some of these shadowy people, because they're very codependent on being in a relationship, always fearful other people will leave, uh, in their ego, trying to maintain an illusion they don't operate from their ego, and trying to maintain balance within themselves when they're maybe very out of balance. And, it's just kind of like a torturous way to live for some people. But everybody has the free will to do this work, to love themselves and heal. But you'd have to be willing to look at the truth. And some people are like, I'm not going to do that. I want to keep staying in denial of the truth. I'm sure I will be happy just making my life more about these things of the world or me. So they'll probably keep doing that. So there you go, Libra. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.